Welcome to Part 6, Application Monitoring. Application monitoring allows PowerHA to monitor your applications. It's optional, but it's highly recommended. Without it, PowerHA doesn't actually know whether your applications are up or down. In order to ensure that event processing does not hang due to failures in your scripts and to prevent hold-up during event processing, PowerHA has always started the application in the background. There's no wait or error checking, and in multi-tiered environments there's no easy way to ensure that the applications of higher layers have been started. Application monitoring provides for self-healing clusters. You can have multiple application monitors per application controller or application server, up to 128 cluster wide. There are two types of application monitors you configure: process and custom. Process monitors for a set of processes and triggers recovery if a process fails. Custom monitors can be used to verify if the application is actually doing some useful work. For example, a database monitor could periodically send transactions to the database engine, verify the response, and return an exit code. Let's have a look at application monitoring in action. Here's a nice simple example to prove the usefulness of application monitoring. Here we're looking at a cluster status on our primary node HA71A. The Grumpy resource group is online. But let's take a closer look. If we're to cd into the testfs file system, which Grumpy writes logs to, let's just tail the Grumpy log. We can see here it came up at 1427. I started writing some happy logs and then failed at 1428. So the application's down. Yet the cluster status is saying the resource group is available. So what can we do? Well, we're going to add an application monitor. So I'll go into cluster applications and resources, user applications, application monitors. We're going to actually add a custom monitor because I've actually written a check script that just returns whether Grumpy is actually running or not. So I'm going to add a monitor and I'm going to call it Grumpy App Mon. I always think it's useful if you're debugging in log files to give the monitor a different name to the application controller. There are three possible types, so you can just have a monitor to specify whether the application started, or just a repeat monitor to check whether it's continuously running, or both. So I'm going to have my monitor do both. Monitor method is the check script, so use a local Grumpy check is my script. And the monitor interval is the repeat time. So I'm going to say run every 10 seconds. Hung monitor signal we can leave default. This is if Grumpy check was to hang, the system would well by default issues a kill -9. Stabilization period I'm going to have as 10 seconds. This is really the key in the process because it's the differentiating time between the startup and the long running. So what will happen in this case is the application start script will be invoked as a background process. PowerHA will wait 10 seconds and then run the start script or run the Grumpy check script to see whether the application has started. If it started successfully, then it will wait another 10 seconds and run Grumpy check again, and then continuously run Grumpy check every 10 seconds. Restart count is the number of times PowerHA will attempt to stop and start the application on the node before doing something. Doing something can be just notify, which will send output to the console or write output into the logs, or we can do something maybe a little bit more meaningful than that and actually fall over to the next node in the list. The restart interval will be calculated automatically. It's the amount of time if the application was to fail sometimes the restart count actually gets decremented. So the restart interval is the period of time when it actually resets the counter back to 5. So I'm just going to put 100 seconds in there. Notify method is an optional script you can supply that can do other things, like if the monitor method was to fail, you could actually get it to send an email out or send an SMS text. The cleanup and restart are by default the stop and start scripts for the application. So you can specify slightly different ones. The reason why it differentiates between stop, start to cleanup and restart is that your cleanup and restart scripts might be different. You might actually do some extra checking and processing. So I know that when Grumpy's dead, that it is truly dead. So I'm going to delete the cleanup script, and the restart method there is just fine. It's just a normal start script. So let's add that monitor. So once the monitor is added, we need to sync the cluster, so we can use CO Manager to do that. So CO Manager sync cluster. And then while we're waiting for cluster sync, if we do a tail -f on Grumpy log, so what we should see is when the synchronization process is completed, the application check script should be run. It should fail, and then PowerHA will pick up the non-zero return code and re-execute the application start script. And there we have it, folks. Grumpy is now started again and writing happy logs. So we just checked back a few minutes later, and as you can see, Grumpy keeps failing, and application monitoring continues to re-invoke the application to keep it highly available. Hope you found that useful. Thank you.